Now, this is an objection you might get quite a bit if you sell in what's called the high ticket industry. Okay, so in this example, you might get it in other industries, but more towards that high ticket industry. So in this example, let's say you sell some type of trading software that teaches people how to successfully trade and make money at it, become a full-time trader. Prospect, Barry, I've never done this before. That's way more money than I've ever spent. You would say, how do you mean by that exactly? Or how do you mean? Or in what way by that? Or how do you mean by that? Just a clarifying question. Prospect, well, it seems like this is going to cost me a lot of money. Well, I'm assuming you understand when you want to acquire the right skill sets to be able to make more money trading, it's going to require, capital or credit to put into that so you can make a lot of money and really minimize your risk, right? I mean, how much funding do you think most people put into acquiring those type of advanced skills so that they can make that type of money where they can actually leave their jobs and become full-time traders? I mean, how much money do you think most people invest for something like that? Prospect says, well, I'm not really sure. Well, typically it's tens of thousands of dollars and years of their lives trying to learn that. So when people see all they have to put into the trading software and us train them how to use it is only $21,000 compared to the amount of money they make from learning those skills, they actually feel like they're stealing it from us. I mean, you tell me, is it more risky to get the funding together or put into the trading software? We train you and you get up to XYZ income a year like you mentioned? Or is it more risky for you to do nothing at all? Your financial problems stay exactly the same thing. You have to stay in your job for the next 5, 10, 20 years and nothing ever changes. Like, which is more risky? Now, if they still cannot overcome this concern at that point, then you go into the standard, we don't have the money objection found earlier in this training. Sometimes you can resolve that with that as well. All right, let's go over objection number 41. We're moving right along here. We are still, hey, this sounds really, really good, Shakir, but we're still price shopping. Still price shopping. You say, how do you mean by price shopping? Prospect, well, we're just looking for the best price with the budget we have. You say, so is the price the most important thing to you or actually getting results and solving the two problems you mentioned? Prospect says, what do you mean by that? Now, in this example, let's say you sell commercial windows to businesses, okay? Well, I'm asking because we could always lower the price, but it actually depends on the results your company wants to get. I mean, are you looking for like the cheapest windows that would probably have to be replaced every 5 to 7 years or so, and your utility bill would be about the same because the cold air would still be coming into the warehouse? Or are you looking for more of a mid-range window that's going to last maybe 12 to 15 years? Your utility will probably go down around 20%. Or are you looking for the top of the line window that's going to last 20 to 25 years and your utility bills could go down 30 to 40% a month? I mean, which is actually cheaper once you break it down long term? See, that's an example of how you resolve that. Now, in other industries, it'd be a little bit of a tweak that, but we don't have time to go through 150 different industries. Okay? I want to speak to other companies first. Do you ever get that one? How many sales do you lose because you don't know how to overcome that? Now, let's say you get this objection at the end of your sales process when you're trying to close. The point here is, do you actually know what the real concern is? Because if they loved everything you had to offer, they had 100% certainty it would solve their problems and get them where they want to be, then they would never say that to you, right? So we have to understand they have a concern behind the statement that we need to find out and addressed and then diffuse. Prospect says, this is really good and we appreciate you coming over, but we just want to speak with other companies first. You agree and you say, yeah, that's not a problem. That's always a good way to reduce the sales resistance. You say, yeah, that's not a problem. What are you hoping those companies will say to you? Prospect says, well, we just want to compare prices and things like that. Ah, okay. How do you mean by things like that? Prospect, well, we just want to compare what each company does and see all the different price points. You say, okay, so let's suppose that you meet with all these different companies. You put in all that work all of them, including us, all meet your criteria, including the price, how would you then decide what to do? Now, here's where you find out what they're really looking for and what the real concern is once you ask this question. They're going to say, well, at that point, we'd be looking at who can, and then they're going to tell you the one thing that pulls them over the edge. Now you know exactly what that one thing is, and your competitors would have no clue because they wouldn't even know how to ask that question or be able to get the prospect to tell them. Now you have the advantage, okay? Sometimes right here, they'll even bring up a valid concern or a logistical concern. Let's say if you sold farm equipment, they might say, well, at that point, we'd want to know who can best do X, Y, Z. Now you know what the real concern is, you address it, you diffuse it, and then you can buy on the spot. Now we kind of went over that objection, a different tweak of that a little bit ago, but I wanted you to see a little bit of a difference there with that type of tweak, all right? Objection number 43, I never make rash decisions. You ever get that objection? Now this is very similar to the I want to think it over objection from a prospect, meaning it's not the real objection. No one goes and thinks about a buying decision for weeks on end. Something you said or did not ask in that sales conversation or process triggered them to have uncertainty that your company could get them results they want. Prospect says, I never make rash decisions on the spot though. Oh, what do you mean by rash decisions? Well, I just need time to think about this. Here's what you say. Okay, that's not a problem. What's your time frame on getting back to me the next day or two just to see if I'd be available for you? Now, why on earth would I try to not overcome that objection right then and there? Why would I ever set up a second call or a third call or a fourth call, depending on what you sell? Because it takes the sales pressure out of the conversation. It disarms a prospect and causes them to let their guard down. Remember, the whole point is to get them to open up of what's behind them saying, I never make rash decisions like this. It also positions you as busy with other clients. You don't need the sale. You're detached. It disarms them from becoming more open. It disarms them where they want to become more open to you. Prospect, well, I guess I could call you back in a few days. Okay, don't take that. You need a scheduled time. Salesperson, you say, well, possibly. Not sure I'd be available randomly like that with my schedule. What I can do, if it helps, is if you have your calendar handy, I can pull up mine and have you book a specific time with me. That way you don't have to chase me down and vice versa. Would that be appropriate? Now remember, that's called a calendar commitment. We've gone over that a few other times in the training. Now, after you book the appointment, you ask this question. Now, John, before I go, what were you wanting to go over in your mind, just so I know what questions you might have when we talk tomorrow? See, it's a much better way of saying that rather than saying, what do you want to think about? You say, now, before I go, what were you wanting to go over in your mind, just so I know what questions you might have when you talk tomorrow? Now, this is the key at this point. They're going to tell you what the real concern is. They might say, well, I'm just concerned about, or I'm just not understanding how this part would work for what I need, or I'm not really sure I can get the budget for this. Now you know their concern, and you can resolve the concern right there and close them. Okay, once you... person with them, while you're on the phone with them, while you're on Zoom with them, or wherever you're at, rather than not knowing and hoping and praying they show up the next appointment and saying, I want to get started, then you're going to be able to clarify the concern, ask diffusing questions, discuss it, and work out a solution together, and most of the time, close the deal on that very call. Now, let's say at the end of all that, you try and resolve their concern, but they still come back around and say, well, this sounds good, but I still do not make rash decisions. You can say something like this. Well, yeah, I mean, you tell me, is it more risky for you to get the funding together so that you can repeat back what they said they wanted? Or is it more risky for you guys to do nothing at all these problems stay the same, and nothing ever changes? Like, which is more risky? See how that works? We already used vendor X. Why should we go with you? Gave you a different variation of this maybe 10 or 15 objections ago, but sometimes you're going to get this variation and it's going to be a little bit different what you say. Now, this objection usually happens towards the beginning of a sales call, especially cold calling. It can also come up sometimes if you're presenting to a board and someone on the board just straight up asks you this question within the first few minutes because you've never met with them before. How you react to this will determine if the prospect opens up or emotionally shuts down. Remember, it's all about disarming the prospect to get them to let their guard down and open up. Okay, prospect says, well, why should we go with you? We already have a company who does the same thing for us. You say, well, I'm not quite sure that you should yet. We'd have to understand more about what you're currently doing in XYZ compared to where you're wanting to be to kind of see what that gap looks like, just to see if we could actually help, because you might be better off staying with who you already have. Are you with me on that? I want you to watch how your prospect starts to melt and they let their guard down. You've admitted that you might not even be able to help them because you don't know anything about their situation. When you give prospects the impression that you're there for them, they start to view you differently than anyone else who's ever tried to sell them something. Instead of them looking at you as some salesperson trying to stuff your solution down their throat, they now view you as an expert, the trusted authority who can get them the results they want. They're going to say something like that. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. What do you got? Well, at first, I'd probably need you to walk me through what you're currently using for. Understand more about what you're currently doing in XYZ compared to where you're wanting to be to kind of see what that gap looks like, just to see if we could actually help, because you might be better off staying with who you already have. Are you with me on that? I want you to watch how your prospect starts to melt and they let their guard down. You've admitted that you might not even be able to help them because you don't know anything about their situation. When you give prospects the impression that you're there for them, they start to view you differently than anyone else who's ever tried to sell them something. Instead of them looking at you as some salesperson trying to stuff your solution down their throat, they now view you as an expert, the trusted authority who can get them the results they want. They're going to say something like that. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. What do you got? Well, at first, I'd probably need you to walk me through what you're currently using for, and then you go right into your first situation questions. All right, let's go over objection number 45. I don't want to go into debt. Now, this objection you're primarily going to get if you're in the high-ticket industry, if you sell business opportunities or coaching or course sales, and they need to put it on a credit card or a loan or something like that. And it could be in other industries as well, where they need to get a loan for something you're offering, between $5,000 and $100,000 or even more. It's mainly B2C, because companies don't necessarily say that. It's mainly a B2C objection, okay? So let's address this industry-specific example and see how it works. Now, once again, depending on what you sell, you can always adapt this to your industry too with a couple small tweaks that will be needed, all right? Now, in this example, let's say you sell affiliate marketing courses that train people how to make money on the internet and become a full-time internet marketer. The two biggest problems people have for that industry is they want to make more money and they want to have more time, so they're looking to start their own business, which allows them to do that. Just a vehicle. Prospect, we really like this, but we're going to have to wait till we have the full amount. We just don't want to go into any debt. You say, can I make a suggestion on that topic? Prospect says, sure, go ahead. I'm a big Dave Ramsey fan, and he always talks about there are two types of debt. There's consumer debt, and then there's business debt. Are you familiar with what the difference is? Prospects, most are going to say, well, not really. What do you mean? Well, consumer debt, according to Ramsey, is where you take your credit card, you go to the mall, you buy a new pair of shoes, you buy the new clothes, you see that new flat screen, jumbo screen, you got to have that, you have the cool headphones, you buy this fancy new red car. How many of those things actually make you money? Prospect says, well, none of them do actually. You say, exactly, they just take your money. That's considered by people like Dave Ramsey and other debt experts as bad debt. You never want to go into bad debt because it doesn't make any money. Now, good debt, according to business owners and investors, is taking capital, is taking a loan, credit, and injecting it into the business so you can start the business and grow it and make a lot of more money. You see the difference? Because without the capital or using credit putting it in, how would you ever be able to start your own business so you can make more money and be able to get out of your job so you have more time with your family? See, that's an NEPQ consequence question I just gave you. And that caused them to see in their mind that without them getting the debt, going into debt to start that, they'll never be able to have what they want. If they can get the funding, they get what they want. If they can't get the funding, they don't get what they want. See how that works? All right, let's go into objection number 46. I don't want to commit to anything. Now, this objection you really could get in any industry. It's not one of the top 3 or 4 you're always going to get, but you can get it here, so let's address it. Prospect says, at this time, I just don't want to commit to anything. You say, how do you mean? Now, that's just a clarifying question. It's very important to first clarify so you really understand what they mean by that statement, and most importantly, understand what the concern is. Saying I don't want to commit to anything is not a real objection. There was something you said or did not ask that's triggering uncertainty in the prospect's mind, and you're causing them to say that to you. So let's find out what that is. Now, in this example, let's say you sell recruiting software and services to help companies recruit good quality truck drivers to fill their trucks and deliver goods. Prospect, well, we just want to wait and see what happens. I just don't want to commit to anything right now. That's not a problem. Can I ask you something though? Prospect, sure, go ahead. How would I be able to communicate to you that you might be making the wrong decision without you getting upset with me? Prospect, oh, I wouldn't get upset. What do you have in mind? Now, let's go back. I want to show you why I said something. Let me repeat this. How would I be able to communicate to you that you might be making the wrong decision without you getting upset with me? The prospect's always going to be like, oh, I wouldn't get upset. What do you have in mind? You say, you had mentioned that you wanted to fill 5 to 10 new trucks a month, but you're having, you want to be here, but you're having a hard time finding stable drivers, which has caused you guys to miss out on loads that are going to your competition, which you mentioned was costing you around XYZ dollars every month. So is it more risky for you to get the funds together to solve that issue, be able to hire 5 to 10 high quality drivers every month like our clients are doing, and all those loads start going to your company instead of your competitors? Or is it more risky for you guys to do nothing at all? That problem stays exactly the same. You keep losing all those loads every month, and the company revenue keeps stagnating like you mentioned. Which is more risky for you guys? That's an easy concern to resolve. You just have to get them to say, oh, it's way more risky for us to do this. Okay? All right. All right, objection number 47. I need to talk to my mom, my brother, my CPA, my cousin, my uncle who lives in a van down by the river. Okay, in all seriousness, you know what I mean, okay? You will have some people that literally will say things like this, especially if you sell business to consumer. In that environment, sometimes people will literally give you this objection. I kid you not. Now, the key here is understanding that this is a triggered reaction from something you said or did not ask that caused them to have uncertainty or fear that it's not going to work out for them, or they're worried they don't have the money for it. So they're seeking validation from another source on what they should do. And realistically, do you think they're really going to even talk to those people? Most of the time, not. They're just giving it as an excuse. Prospect says, I really like this, James, but I think I need to talk to my mom and really see what she thinks. Or I really like this, but I need to talk to my financial advisor and see what she thinks I should do. Now, in this example, let's say you sell solar. which lowers people's power bills. And after 25 years, they don't even have to pay anymore. It's like owning your own home and getting the loan paid off in 25 years compared to renting your home for the next 20, 30, 40, 50, 70 years and paying rent forever, okay? You say this when they say that to you. Yeah, that's not a problem. How does your mom feel about you putting solar in so that you can save money in your utilities every month and eventually not even have a bill anymore? See how I'm tying in them purchasing what I'm offering with what the prospect wants, which is to save money on their bill and eventually not have a bill anymore. Prospect is going to say, well, I think she would want me to do it. I mean, it's obviously they're not going to say, no, she wouldn't want me to save any money. And then you would say, but what happens if you go to her and she doesn't want you to put solar in and your electricity bill keeps going up 5, 6, 7% every year like it has the last 10 years, and you end up having to pay that the rest of your life? Like, what happens then? Prospect, well, I just really value her opinion. You would ask, so does she have solar installed in her own home? Prospect, no, she doesn't at all. Okay. Does your mom want to keep having to pay her utility bills that keep going up 5 and 6% every single year? Does she want to have to keep paying those for the next 30 or 40 years too? Prospect, well, of course not. I mean, she wouldn't want to keep paying higher bills. You would say, so if she doesn't want to keep paying her higher utility bills, why would she want her own daughter to have to keep paying them herself? Prospect, yeah, that makes sense. I don't see why she would want me to have to keep paying those forever. You would ask, do you feel like this could be the answer for you then? And you ask a commitment question. So you just helped her diffuse that objection. Then you simply ask a commitment question, aka closing question, and you wrap the sale up. Now, for different industries, there's going to be smaller tweaks on that. I just wanted to give you an industry-specific example so you could see the formula. Is this a scam? Okay. This is an objection you will see a lot of if you sell anything that has to do with making money on the internet or network marketing or any type of business opportunity or coaching program. Now, in this example, and you might even get this in B2B. You know, when I sold B2B debt relief services, that was one of the 4 industries I was in, there would literally be some people that would ask me on a cold call if that was a scam, getting rid of their debt. Companies, like large companies, I kid you not. But it's primarily in those industries. You could get it in other industries, but mainly the ones I just gave you, okay? So in this example, let's say that you sell a network marketing opportunity. So you have to recruit people and get them to buy your company's products if you want to really succeed in that industry. The problems you solve for people is helping them start a business with low upfront cost and low overhead. Helps them make more money and have more time with their family. That's why they could be interested. Those are the problems you solve. Prospect says, Sally, my friend at church, I really like what you showed me, but my friend at church said that these things are scams. You would ask, how do you mean by scams? See that clarifying question? Prospect, well, she said that she tried one of those things before and she didn't make any money. She got ripped off. Oh, what did she actually try, just so I understand? Prospect says, well, she joined some MLM named XYZ formula. You would say, oh, yeah, I've heard of that company. Seems like they have thousands involved. So there must be a lot of people that are successful for them to be that big and be around for the past 20 years. What do you think held back your friend from having success if there were others getting results? Prospect, well, I'm not sure why she didn't do well. I'd have to ask her. Then you would ask, can I ask you something else, Jane? Yeah, go ahead. Is your friend extremely wealthy? Prospect, oh, no, not at all. I would say they're middle class, if that, probably barely getting by. Then you want to ask, okay, can I suggest one thing to you about that? Sure, go ahead. Have you ever considered that if you take financial advice from people who have no experience running the same type of business and are not wealthy themselves, that it might prevent you from ever starting your own business and having financial freedom in your life? Are you okay with me saying that? Prospect, well, I've never thought about it that way. I can see where you're coming from. And you would say, well, you tell me, are you going to be more successful in business taking advice from your friend or someone who's not successful or wealthy themselves? Or would you be more successful taking advice from somebody who's actually successfully running the same business you're wanting to get involved with and making X amount of dollars per year? Which person is going to help you have financial freedom the most? Oh, well, of course I'd be more successful taking advice from a successful person. Then you would say, well, I mean, that's like taking advice from a friend who's been divorced 4 times on what you should do in your relationship. How successful would your relationships be? Prospect will laugh like, ha ha ha, that's so true. And then you say, do you feel like this can be something you can do to really get you where you're wanting to go in your life? You ask a commitment question, also known as closing question, and you wrap up that deal. You have to help them diffuse that by asking questions that allow them to think through that to realize that that's just nonsense. Objection number 49. I just have this fear that it's not going to work out for me. I have fear that this is not going to work out for me. Now, I gave you a little kind of a tweak of this maybe 20 objections ago, but there's going to be different circumstances, so I wanted to give you a little bit different way. So in many industries, you will actually get this objection quite a bit, both B2B sales and B2C. I sold in 4 different industries, 2 B2C, 2 B2B. I got this objection in all 4 of those. Not a ton, but it does happen, so I want you to be prepared when it does happen. Remember, all selling is change. It's about how good you are at getting your prospects to view in their mind that by changing their situation, that means purchasing your solution, so they can solve their problems and get what they want, is far less risky for them than them doing nothing at all. The problems stay the same and nothing ever changes. So whether they want something better or they're trying to get away from pain, it's all about change. Now, let me suggest something to you. Here is your problem though. Human beings do not like change, even though they say they do. So selling is all about change, but human beings don't like change. And why? Because it makes us feel uncomfortable, especially when it's initiated by pushy salespeople who are ready to pitch their products or services within the first few seconds of meeting a prospect. Human behavior shows that we value something that's consistent and something that is familiar, even if we don't like it, over something that is more new to us or foreign to us. Think like the battered spouse syndrome. Keep getting physically or verbally abused, but they keep coming back because they're so used to it that it seems more comfortable than actually the unknown of leaving that relationship. You see where I'm at? So it's your job as a sales professional to help them overcome their fear so they can move forward, solve their problems, and get what they want. Now, in this example, I'm going to give you an industry-specific example in the B2B sales world so you can see how this works. In this example, let's say that you're a salesperson and you're taking inbound calls from companies who are looking to reserve tons of rooms for banquets they have or events that they have, and they're wanting to rent out 30, 40, 50, 100, 150 rooms, and you can make a good commission on that. So let's say that you're in hotel sales, if you want to call it that. Prospect says, I just have this fear that this just won't work out for us. You want to say it this way. What do you mean you fear it won't work out? Clarifying question. Prospect, well, in the past, with the resorts we've used, we've really had problems with check-ins in our dinner service. You would ask, how do you mean by that exactly? Prospect, see, you're still clarifying. Prospect, well, it's really just the timing. I cannot fly all of our employees in between 2:30 and 5 p.m. for check-in so they can be ready for the welcome reception by 6:30 p.m. We really have to have some rooms ready by noon or 1 p.m. for that to work. And the employees get upset when they get to the check-in counter and the rooms are not ready. You would ask, can you tell me how this affects you when this happens? See that clarifying question? You want them to reveal more pain. Prospect, well, everyone starts calling me, then my boss jumps on me. I mean, it happened a few months ago and I thought I was going to lose my job. Then you would ask, how did that make you feel when that happened? Oh my gosh, devastated to say the least. I've got a family to take care of, so I cannot lose my job. Then you would ask, so this is important for you to get it right then. That's a probing statement, NEPQ probing statement, okay? Prospect, oh, you have no idea. you would ask. Now, you would also mention you were concerned about the dinner service. Can you tell me more about that? See, we're going right back into that. She had that concern too. We're going right back into it. Prospect. Yeah, thanks for asking me. We usually have over 500 people at the welcome reception, and usually the last 8 to 10 tables get served cold food, and it causes those tables to really get pissed off. You would say, does it have an impact on you when that happens though? Oh my gosh, yes it does. I then have to go into crisis mode. I have to help calm them down when I should be directing my attention to the after dinner events going on. Then you would ask, okay, that makes sense. Tell me, what other points of concern do you possibly have? Prospect. I don't really have any other concerns. We just need to make sure it's well planned out and then extremely executed, like to the T. Then you would say, okay, well, what I can do is I can show you how our hotel operations can be tailored to your schedule if you'd like. Would that possibly take some of the pressure off of you? Prospect. Wow, it sure would. When can we do that? Just like that, poof, the fear, the objection is gone, and the sale is made. Too easy. Do that, you'll make a lot of money. All right, let's go to objection number 50. We have arrived. Got a few extra bonus ones for you, though. All right, let's go to objection number 50. This is a good one. It sounds too good to be true. This sounds really good, but it just sounds too good to be true. It sounds too good to be true. Have you ever got this objection? I got this objection on both B2B sales and B2C sales in the industries I sold in, okay? Primarily, you're going to see it more in B2C, but you will, surprisingly, have this in some B2B deals too, okay? This is another fear-based objection, like I said, that you're going to see in different industries, especially if you sell some type of product or service or training program that teaches people how they make an ROI or some type of money. This one will come up frequently if you're in those industries. And it could come up in other industries too. You'd be surprised. It's not a ton of it, but it will happen, so I want you to be prepared. Okay, prospect says, well, it just sounds too good to be true to me. You would ask, well, would you like us to make it harder for you? See how I did that? Would you like us to make it harder for you? Like I'm questioning them. And they're going to say, most will laugh. Oh, don't get me wrong, but when I was a kid, my grandfather would always say, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Yeah, my grandfather would say that too. Can I ask you something though? Sure, go ahead. That saying, you would say, that saying, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Where do you think that originally came from? Somebody that was extremely wealthy or somebody that was poor? Now, a lot of times they'll say, oh, somebody was poor. Or they might say, I'm not sure, maybe somebody that was poor. And you say, exactly, someone that was poor. So if you take advice from poor people, what type of financial results do you think you're going to get in your own life? Prospect, well, I guess the same results they're getting. Do you want to change that? Oh my gosh, yes, I have to change. Then you would say, well, you don't have to. I mean, why do this now? Like, why not push it down the road like unsuccessful people would? Now, they're going to fight back because they don't want to be like this. Like, oh, no, I'm not going to be like that. And then you ask a commitment question and you close the sale. Okay, objection number 51. Can you just give this to me for free and once I make money, I'll pay you back? You ever got that one? Can you give this to me for free and when I make money, I will pay you back? Okay. Now, this objection you will only get in certain industries, okay? Like when I was in B2B sales, like I said, I was in 4 industries, 2 B2C, 2 B2B. In B2B, I never got this objection. In B2C, I actually got this objection a little bit here and there. So you have to be prepared what to do, okay? So especially if you sell anything that's a service, a training product that helps a prospect make money, you will have people that say something crazy like this. So in this example, let's say that you sell a trading software that trains people to be able to trade so they can make more money. Or it could be if you sell leads to people to help them make more sales, or if you sell real estate education to help people make more money in real estate, if you sell e-commerce or Amazon SBA courses that teach you how to make money online, if you sell a network marketing opportunity, this objection can come up, okay? Prospect. Yeah, I mean, if this is so good, Jeremy, then why don't you guys just let me have the software for free, and then once I make money, I'll just pay you back with interest, like a smart aleck. You would say, Jamie, help me understand. How would the owners be willing to give away something that gives clients those type of skill level to become full-time traders that leave their jobs and make more money? Why would they ever give that to someone for free? Prospect. Well, I'm not sure, but if it's that good, why not just give it away and then let us pay them back? You would ask. Can I make a suggestion, Jamie? Lower your tone. They're going to say, sure, go ahead. Have you ever considered that way of thinking, where someone should just give you something extremely valuable that helps you make that type of money for free, has kept you financially exactly where you're at in your life? You say that with empathy. Prospect. Well, I guess it could have, you would ask. Yeah, because how could we force someone to follow what we teach them to do and then just hope and pray that they're even going to pay us back after they start making money? A client could just go out, make a bunch of money from what we train them, and never even pay us back and just download all the video training and just run off. There's no way we could force them legally to pay us back. They could just steal all the training and we could do nothing about it. How are you going to overcome that way of thinking so you can move forward, learn how to trade, and start making more money so you don't have to stay in your job forever, if that's what they wanted to do, Prospect. I know, I need to do something different. Well, you tell me, what happens if you don't, though? If you just stay in the same job, same income, the next 5, 10, 15 years, like what happens then? Oh no, yeah, that would not be good. So the question you have to ask, Jamie, is it comes down to this. Is it more risky for you to get the funding together to invest in the trading platform? You learn the right skills starting tomorrow, and you start making more money? Or is it more risky for you to do nothing at all? You just stay in the status quo forever. Problems stay the same and nothing ever changes. Which is more risky for you? You're always going to say, oh, it's more risky if I don't do anything. All right, so time to make a change possibly. And then boom, ask a commitment question and close that deal. All right, so I wanted to give you an extra bonus because I know a couple of the objections, I kind of did the same objection, but I showed you a little twist of it, which will always happen. So I wanted to give you an extra objection, so I'm going to give you 52. We decided to go with someone else. So let's say you're in B2B sales. This could even be a B2C deal too, but let's say you're in B2B sales. You've got a 3 or 4 month sales cycle, even 9 months, let's say. You've been working with a company, you've met with the board, it's gone through legal, and they give you a call at the last second and they say, you know what, Jan, thanks for spending all those months with us, but we decided to go with someone else. We decided to go with XYZ company. And you're like, oh my gosh, that's one of our competitors in your mind. And you're like, I just spent 6 months with them. I wasted all my time. I made $0 from that sale. How do you get them to reconsider? When they said, we decided to go with someone else. If you argue with them, you're done. If you say, well, who did you go with? Oh, XYZ company. Well, they're no good because of X and Y and Z. You should talk to my boss and blah, 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 blah. Likely you're never going to get that deal. So you want to ask this question. Yeah, that's not a problem. We appreciate the time that we've been able to spend with you. Can I ask you something, though, before we get off the phone? Sure, go ahead, Jan. How would I be able to communicate to you that you might be making a mistake by going with XYZ company without you getting upset with us? How would I be able to communicate with you that you might be making a mistake without you getting upset with me? Now, you say it in that tone. No one will ever say, well, what the hell? No, they're always going to say, no, don't worry, I'm not going to be upset with you. What did you have in mind? Okay? That question I just gave you opens them up to something else, some other possibilities. And then what do? You clarify the reason why they wanted to go with them over you. You discuss it as two people discussing it together, collaborating, and then you ask a diffusing question to help them overcome their concern. All right, and there are your 50 plus 2 bonus objections. So 52 objections. Now, your next step here. So now that you've learned the top 52 objections, I know a lot of you are going to be asking, okay, but tell me about the sales process. Tell me about NEPQ. What is neuro-emotional persuasion questioning? If this is the only training you've ever seen from us, like what questions do I need to ask when I first start off the conversation to take the pressure off, the focus off me and put it on them? Those are called connecting questions. What questions do you need to ask to find out what their current situation is, and themselves and you? Those are called situation questions. What questions do you need to ask the prospect to help them find out what their real problems are? Because most prospects don't know what their real problems are when you first start talking to them, or how bad the problem really is, or really the consequences of what will happen if they don't do anything about solving the problem. So those are called problem awareness questions. What questions are those? What questions do I need to ask them to get them to see what their future is going to look like once the problems are solved? Those are called solution awareness questions. What are consequence questions that allow them to see the consequences of what happens if they don't do anything about solving these problems? How do you transition into the next step demo, or the next step proposal, or the next step call? Or if you're doing a one-call close, how do you transition into your presentation? And then how do you actually close? What are commitment questions that actually work, that get them to sell themselves and pull you in? Now realize the 52 objections I just gave you, most of the time, once you learn NEPQ, remember that stands for neuro-emotional persuasion questioning, 70% of these can be eliminated from their mind, where they don't even bring them up at the end. And most of your deals that you make are complete laydowns. You sell a lot more. So if you want to learn what those questions are, your next step is just to simply join our free Facebook group. You're going to go to www.salesrevolution.pro. So you're going to go to salesrevolution.pro, salesrevolution.pro. You just join that for free. If you're already a member in there, I'll show you what to do as well, because a lot of you might already be in our Facebook group. Inside the Facebook group, right when you join, just message us. You can tag me myself, and either myself or someone on our team will message you over some training options that we have for you, so you can really master neuro-emotional persuasion questionings. And once you're armed with how to resolve all these objections, once you learn the right questioning skills, your income can nearly double, triple, quadruple, okay? We have over as the time I'm shooting this right now today, we have over 5,400 some testimonials in the last 28 months. There's probably a reason for that. There's a reason why Inc. magazine made us the fastest growing sales training company in the United States last year. According to the Inc. 5,000 list, we ranked number 1,232 fastest growing companies out of anybody, out of any industry in the United States last year. The number 1 fastest growing sales training company. There's a reason why that is, because our clients get massive results. So if you want to start making, if you're an individual salesperson, you want to start making your first $10,000 monthly commission checks, $20,000 monthly commission checks, $30,000 monthly commission checks, $40,000, $50,000 plus monthly commission checks, because I can guarantee you, we have salespeople that we are training right now in your industry that are making those type of monthly checks every single month. And it's because of the skills we've taught them that work with human behavior, that trigger the prospect to want to pull you in. Objection handling is just a small portion of that, okay? So join the Facebook group. If you're already in there, just tag me.